Hi, my loves, and welcome back to I'm on Your Side with me, Sierra Boudreau, episode 11. I'm so excited to get into this one. I've been thinking about this one for a while because it's something that's been on my mind. And I was telling my friend the other day that when I have something like really weighing heavily on my mind, I can't make an episode that's not about that in some way or doesn't talk about it in some way. And there's just some things that I wanted to talk about with you guys and share with you guys. One being that I shared about it on TikTok. And it was kind of something that I was a little bit scared to share just because it is such a sensitive topic. And I think that if you don't say exactly the right thing, somebody can pick up on it and turn it into something that you didn't mean to say or something that you didn't mean at all. And so I've been kind of trying to figure out how to approach this topic. And the best way I knew how was just to go ahead and be honest about how I've been feeling and what I've been doing. So over the past I'd say month. Actually, I know it's been a month. Over the past month, I have been on this journey to lose a little bit of weight. And mind you, when I go into this topic, I want us to be mindful of our own triggers. I think that it's really important to be mindful of our own triggers. I know that talking about weight loss, talking about our bodies, talking about the change in it, talking about exercise can be really triggering for some of us. And so this episode is not going to be all about this. I'm going to speak about this for the next 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. So I'll go ahead and just say I'm done when I'm done talking about this. But I shared on TikTok that I've been on a little bit of this weight loss journey, and it's not that I want to lose like this extraordinary amount of weight, but I know what it feels like to feel really healthy and feel really strong and feel really capable and to feel my best. And so that's what I've been working towards. But I was sharing that last time that I went under a big weight loss transformation, if you will, was 2021. I was 22 at the time. And as you guys know, I had just gotten out of my abusive relationship and COVID was still kind of hanging around, after the big COVID year 2020. And so there was just a lot going on. And I had gained a lot of weight, which really isn't the issue that I gained weight in such a time like that. Like that totally makes sense. I was under a lot of stress, under a lot of pressure. And I just didn't have the resources or the means to really figure out what I wanted to do about it yet. And so I lost a bunch of weight in 2021. I started going to spin, and I would love to say that I lost weight in the healthiest way and in a way that was protective of my mental health and protective of my body and just really showed myself that I was on my own side, but I didn't. I can't say that. I think that I was really, really focused on losing the weight and losing the weight quite quickly. And so I joined Weight Watchers at the time, and Weight Watchers isn't the problem. I've worked with Weight Watchers before, not necessarily on weight loss stuff, but that is what their brand is centered around, weight management, weight loss, all of that stuff. So I started Weight Watchers, and I didn't realize that you have to be really, really careful with Weight Watchers in the way that it's not necessarily points correlate to calories, because something can be relatively low in calories or not that high in calories, right? But they'll give it like 8 points, 10 points, whatever it may be, and you have, say, 25 points for the day. Just in case you're not familiar with Weight Watchers, that's kind of how it works. And I was going to spin very, very often, sometimes twice in a day. And I was really focused on losing the weight quite quickly. And I don't think that I gave myself the grace that I needed to give myself. And I don't think that I gave myself the patience that I needed to give myself. And my mental state was like, I'll do whatever I need to do to lose the weight. And I've been thinking about that a lot because as I'm going through this weight loss journey right now, it's been more so like, why is it that I feel the need to go to spin 5 times a week or else I feel like I didn't work out enough? Why is it that unless it's heavy cardio, like my spin class or like Barry's, I don't feel like that's a good enough workout? Why is it that when I look at my Apple Watch and I haven't burned 400 calories, 500 calories, I feel like I didn't work hard enough? And with the Apple Watch, I think I noticed this a couple months ago. And with the Apple Watch, I stopped wearing it in January. I was like, you know what? This year, I'm just not going to wear it to track my workouts. I wear it to track my runs because I like to see my cadence and my pace and my distance and all that stuff. But when it comes to a spin class, when it comes to Barry's, when it comes to Pilates, whatever it may be, I don't wear the watch because I was getting so invested in what the number on the watch said that I only felt like it was a good workout if I was burning an extraordinary amount of calories. And it was really, really damaging to my mental health. And it was really very damaging to my relationship with exercise. And it was really hard for me to overcome, I think, for the the first couple of weeks when I wasn't wearing my watch, I started to feel a little bit anxious. I was like, was that a good workout, or did I waste my time, or should I have been doing something more intense, or since I finished this class, should I stay and double, or should I go home and do another workout? Like, I was so invested in it. And I think that, as I said on TikTok, and what I want to iterate here, it's how you lose weight matters because it has such long-term effects on your mental health. Back when I was losing the weight in 2021, was so focused on, like I just walked you through, so focused on the weight loss and not really self-care or self-advocacy or just feeling really, really comfortable with the pace that I was doing it. And so now that I'm losing weight again, I find that I have some of those negative feedback loops in my head because the last time I did this, it was a really negative experience, honestly, when I look back. In the way that I cared for myself or the lack of care for myself, right? And so it's natural that I'm in these situations and I'm like, okay, well, I should be burning this and I should be eating this and I should be doing this. And it's been this learning experience and honestly, this way for me to prove to myself that I have come so far in the way that I care for myself. And I've come so far in the way that I show up for myself, because when I have these thoughts that I didn't work out hard enough, or I shouldn't be eating that's bad, or I need to be doing more, I can redirect myself and remind myself that that's not true. And I can tell myself that it doesn't matter if I burn 100 calories or 500 calories. What matters is that I felt the desire to move my body, and so I did it. That's what matters at the end of the day. And I've been learning so much about healthy weight loss, sustainable weight loss, and doing it in a way that feels really, really good to me. And like I was saying before, it's not like, and I'd never want anyone to hear me say that wanting to lose weight is bad. I think that also with the rise of such negative speak around weight loss and honestly scary conversations around weight loss coming from the internet, people telling you these really unhealthy, these really unsustainable ways to lose weight, and these like meal plans, these what I eat in a day that are like, that is, and I know everyone's body is different, but you look at it and it's like, that's for anyone, not enough food. That is not a sustainable amount of food to survive off of, but people are pushing that towards you because that's what they're doing and that's what they think you should be doing, and it's really scary. And so you see all of this information and then you start to go the complete opposite and you say, okay, any talk about weight loss, any talk about wanting to change your body is bad, and it is naturally going to lead to disordered behavior, which also isn't true. If you want to change your body in any way, if you want to lose weight, gain weight, maintain weight, you're allowed to want to do that. It is your body to exist in, and anyone else's opinions about what you're doing with your body does not matter. You're allowed to do with it what feels good to you. And with that said, you have to be really, really mindful of the content that you're consuming around food, around nutrition, around weight loss, around all that stuff, because whether or not we think about it in the moment, what we're reading, what we're watching, what we're seeing and consuming sticks with us for a really long time. And the things that we hear become the things that we tell ourselves, and the things that we tell ourselves become the things that we repeat subconsciously. We don't even realize we're doing it. It's like when you're at the grocery store and you see something that maybe has a lot of sugar in it, a lot of high calories in it, and you're like, oh, that's bad, I could never eat that, which isn't true. I've been reading a lot about people's like personal experiences with weight loss, whether it's, a big amount of weight or a small amount of weight, whatever it may be. People are saying that they didn't realize that having control around food isn't necessarily, okay, I won't have this in the house because I have no control around it. That's not control. That is actually a lack of control. What really is control is saying, yes, I have this in the house and I can eat it whenever I want it. So I don't need to eat it just because it's here. I can have a bite today. I can have a bite tomorrow. I can have a slice today. I can have a slice next week, whatever it may be. One of the things that I've done, like every night I eat ice cream, a little bit of ice cream, whatever feels good. And I make sure that I give my body what it wants and give my body what it needs. I'm eating plenty of vegetables. I'm eating plenty of good proteins. And if I want a little bit of ice cream, I have a little bit of ice cream. And guess what? I'm still losing weight. Like I still feel really good in my body. You don't have to necessarily restrict yourself. And I was going through these really big binge and restrict cycles because I didn't realize how little control I had around food. I would eat everything that I wanted, right? And then I'd be like, okay, I'm never going to have that again. I'm going to cut that completely out. And of course, I went back and I would repeat that cycle again and again because I wasn't fixing the root of the problem. The problem is not the food itself, right? The problem isn't how many calories or how much sugar, blah, blah, blah. The problem is when you feel like you can't have it around you, or else you're going to lose complete control around it, or else you completely restrict yourself around it. Like that's kind of the problem that needs to be addressed. And so I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and she was telling me that she started working with a dietitian, and that's been really awesome for her mental health and for her body image and all of these things. And I was really excited to hear that, because I think that sometimes we think, okay, if we get a dietitian, if we get a nutritionist, then they're going to tell us what we don't want to hear, or they're going to judge us, or they're going to shame us, or it's going to be a complete 180, and I'm not ready for that. Like, I think that we have so many thoughts around our bodies and around weight loss and all this stuff. And I just share this with you because it's been on my mind, and it's become a really big part of my life, just being really mindful of what I'm eating and how I'm moving, and how that looks very, very different than it did previously when I lost weight. And I wanted to share that with you guys because it feels weird to me to not share it. I think, like I said, it's such a big part of my life right now that sharing these things feels important to me. And so I know I talked about that for a little bit, and it's going to kind of tie into the episode in little ways, but I wanted to get that out of the way just because that's what I've been thinking about, and that's what I've been doing. And I think that hopefully that can help some people who may be going through the same journey, and it's like saying, okay, I want to lose weight, but I don't want people to judge me or think that I'm being unsupportive of other body types or whatever it may be. I think that, like I said, what you want to do with your body is your choice. It is your body. If you have physical goals, if you have strength goals, if you have flexibility goals, if you have aesthetic goals, that is all 100% your business. And if you want to lean into that, you are more than welcome to lean into that. So that's my spiel on that. But I wanted to get that out of the way, and then we can get into the episode. What an intro, right? Like, truly what an intro, talking all about bodies and weight loss and all of that stuff that feels kind of taboo at this day and age. But the whole thing of the episode, and the whole episode that we're about to get into, as the title says, like, maybe all this is the party. Maybe what we're doing right now, maybe the life that we're living right now, maybe the experiences that we have right now is the party. And instead of waiting for it and yearning for it, it's like, maybe if we focused on what is right in front of us, we can have a deeper appreciation for it and a deeper love for it, so that when we get to the next step further down the line, we don't look back and regret and say, okay, I wish I did that more. I wish I loved it more. I wish I looked up and paid attention more. So let's get into that. Okay, a big desire that I have is for you guys to know me more and know me at my core a little bit more. I think that I've been showing my personality a lot more on social media. I think that I've been a lot more open with you guys lately, and I've been really enjoying that and really loving that. That said, I don't know if all of you guys know that I like to write, and I like to write in the way that I really just write my feelings and my emotions and my experiences, kind of like what I do online, but in a more long form written way. So I wanted to read you guys this thing that I wrote. It's a very, very rough draft. I literally typed it, and now I'm going to read it to you guys. It really hasn't even been reviewed, so be gentle on me, okay? But this is just something that I wrote the other day, and I haven't really looked at it. So here we go. Everyone said that your 20s are hard, and I slid past them, hoping they didn't realize that had yet to apply to me. Then I got what I wanted and realized I didn't want it anymore, and my abusive ex went to jail, and I went ring shopping with the man I planned to marry. I realized I was willing to spend $220 a month to lose weight, but not 5 minutes questioning what I was losing it for. I sat in my own quiet discomfort because I wanted everyone to think that I'm so lucky, even though I usually don't feel that way. Everyone I scrolled past became a mirror to myself, and I compared everything they are to everything I tried and failed to be. I started calling my mother estranged and blocked her number just to realize she never asked for my address and couldn't show up even if she wanted to. I spent $1,000 on Revolve because I was tired of dressing like I live in Denver, only to feel like I was playing dress up in clothes that didn't fit right. I gave up journaling and started podcasting because I felt like my thoughts were only worth expressing if other people were affirming them. I write pretty mediocre prose in my notes app to feel like I have something private and sacred just to share it anyway. I quit a job and then wished I had it just to remember that I didn't really like the job, only the people. I question if it's weird or kind to send a wedding gift for a wedding I wasn't invited to. I laid in the sun and let my friend read my tarot so I could smile and say how aligned it was, even though I stopped listening once it said I was going to have to change to grow. I often feel like a child in an adult's body, and I don't think that goes away, no matter how many times I repeat affirmations that I'm in control of my own life. I see awe and wonder all around me, but only long enough to catalog it and reduce it to 1-minute sound bites so I can share it on TikTok and let everyone tell me how insightful I am. I am kind to myself publicly and critical of myself privately because everyone said that your 20s are hard, and I slid past them realizing it does apply to me. I just hadn't looked up long enough to notice it yet. So that's kind of how I feel. That's like kind of how I feel most of the time. I think some things are in a bit of a melodramatic way. And I think some things just are downright true to how I feel. But I think ultimately that's kind of what expression is, right? Some things are just these really grandiose gestures and expressions of how you feel. Some things are just the nitty-gritty truth of it. So I wanted to share that with you guys because that's what I've been thinking about. That's what I've been writing about. And I just feel like we talk about our 20s, right? And everyone's like, okay, your 20s are hard. And I was telling a friend the other day that I didn't feel like my 20s are hard until recently. I feel like I picked who I was going to be at 22, and I thought that's who I was going to be for the rest of my life. I thought that I decided back then, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is who I'm changing into. This is who I'm going to be. And that's just going to be that, because I didn't have the experience or the time to realize that's really not how it works. I feel like when you're a child and when you're a teenager, you kind of fall into who you're going to be. It's a matter of your circumstances, where your parents chose to raise you, the school system that you grew up in, the people that are your friends, and the people that are your friends are often just people who live in the same neighborhoods and areas that you do, right? Because that's how the public school system works. And so you just kind of like fall into who you're going to be. Of course, there's minor things and there's, your personality and things like that shine through. But I feel like it's very much laid out for you. And then you go to college and that starts to change a little bit, because you start to make full decisions for yourself and you start to really lean into adulthood. And I was 21, barely 21 when I graduated college. And I, in the early part of my 20s, I was just like, okay, I guess I'm going to figure it out. But also I graduated college during COVID. And so I was really isolated. And I think I went from being this very, very open person, this very, very expressive person, and this very extroverted person to kind of shutting into myself a little bit. I think part of that has to do with being abused, right? And living with my abuser and just really being surrounded by that all of the time. And I think part of that just had to do with the emotional repercussions of a global pandemic. I think that was really hard on all of us. And I think going through that in my early 20s during such a formative time had long-term and continues to have long-term effects and impacts on who I am now. And so at 22, the pandemic was kind of in a different place than it had been for the previous couple of years. And I'd gotten out of my abusive relationship and I was like, okay, I'm going to set out to be a different person. I'm going to gain confidence. I'm going to research things more and get educated on worldly events. I'm going to find friends that really are aligned with who I am. I'm going to quit this job and get another job that feels really good to me. I mean, I made a lot of big changes. I was dating. I was having fun. I was just really learning who I was. And I appreciate that time so much. That said, I didn't realize that I was going to have the opportunity and even the desire to reinvent myself again at 25. And I feel like at 25, things look and feel so drastically different than they did at 22. I feel like at 22, things just maybe this is just like timeline bias, right? I'm further removed from it, so it feels this way, but it feels like at 22, things were just easier, right? And now at 25, it's like, oh, I'm a real adult and I'm the one who's making the decisions, and I can make a decision that can completely change the trajectory of my entire life, positive or negative. I've been thinking a lot about this TikTok ban, right? And how I quit my corporate job to pursue social media full time, and my main source of income is TikTok. I know I said on Instagram, you can't borrow grief from tomorrow, right? Like if TikTok is going to be shut down in 6 months, that's a problem that I'm going to have to deal with in 6 months. And I think that that's kind of the overarching thing about how I feel. But I think when it boils down to it, I think I still have some anxieties about it, right? Because this is my job and my livelihood, my career, and something that I left another job for. And so I've been thinking about that. And it's like, what happens if TikTok shuts down and I left this corporate job? And it's not that I feel like I can't find another job. I totally feel confident in myself that I could find another job. But I think that what's kind of scary about it is I left this career at this company that I loved, these people that I really, really enjoyed, this job that, I didn't necessarily love doing in the day-to-day, but I didn't hate doing it. And I think I was pretty good at it. And as I wrote in that thing that I just read to you guys, I loved the people and I loved the company and the benefits were incredible. And it's like, okay, what if I can't find something to that caliber? Again, it's not about not being able to find another job. It's about finding something that I'm going to enjoy in the day-to-day as much as that. But then again, timeline bias comes in, right? And it's like, well, I'm further removed from it. I've been 6 months without it. And so now I'm only seeing it on the highlight reel and thinking about how great everything was and how much fun everything was. And I'm not thinking about how stressed I was during client-facing meetings, or I'm not thinking about how anxious I was when I made a mistake, minor or big. I'm only thinking about how I would fly to New York every 6 weeks and hang out with my coworkers and get drunk and have so much fun and eat really fine foods and all of that stuff, during client calls. Like, I only think about the joys of it. I don't think about the negative things of it. And I think that's just what happens when you get kind of further removed from something. But I think it's like I was saying at 25, it's like, okay, I made a decision, and that could have been a life-changing decision, right? And I think about all the lives that I could have chosen, all the things I could have chosen. And that's what makes it so hard to make decisions sometimes, because you see your life planned out and you're like, okay, if I go this route, then I get this life. And if I go this route, then I get that life. And some decisions, it's like you can't have both. You have to choose one. And how do you know which one is the right one? And what I'm realizing is you don't. You just have to make the decision that feels best for who you are right now. And if you need to make another decision later, you're allowed to make another decision later. I tell you guys all the time that we are allowed to change our minds and welcome to change our minds. And it is a good thing to change our minds and go with what feels good and what feels authentic and what feels genuine to who we are in that moment, right? But it's so stressful because it's like, okay, well, if I make this decision and then I completely cut away from this other part of myself or this other thing that I thought that I wanted or this other path that I thought maybe I would want to go down later down the line, it feels kind of overwhelming at once. But I have to remind myself that I can't make decisions for every single point of my life. I can't do that. There's no way to know what's going to come up. I could make decision A, and that could lead me roundabout to decision D at some point, right? Like I could end up with a place that I thought I was throwing away forever. You really never know what is going to pop up, and getting comfortable with that has been in part terrifying and in part so exciting for me. But I've been trying so hard to focus on what is right ahead of me, what is right now. And I've been trying so hard to say, okay, these are the decisions, these are the options I have right now. And maybe later I'll have different decisions to make. Maybe at another point I'll have different options in front of me. But right now I have A, B, and C, and I can choose which one feels good. And if I go with option A and that doesn't work out the way that I wanted it to, then I have a new set of options and opportunities. It's not about wishing I could go back to the initial option A, B, or C. I've already chosen A. I've gone down A. And now if I want to choose something else or do something else, I get option 1, 2, or 3. It's not about the yearning for the B or the C. It's about moving forward and seeing what else is ahead of me. And that's been giving me a lot of peace and taking away a lot of that fear of regret for me, because once I broke away from the scarcity mindset, okay, all of the best decisions are behind me. All of the best options are behind me. And now I'm going to be left with scraps. I've gotten to explore the idea that maybe there's more goodness. Maybe there's better for me. Maybe I left that thing and it was good that I left that thing, because now I have so much better to choose from. And I think when I reframe my mindset to look towards that, I just have been feeling this sense of comfort that I didn't really have before. I think that I was always, when making decisions, like, okay, I made this decision, but what if that decision was better? And not really feeling firm in the decision that I made, because I thought that there was no way I was absolutely making the best decision. But now I trust myself. And now I can honor myself and say, no, I know myself. I know what I want right now, and I'm going to go after that thing that I want right now. If I want something else later down the line, the universe is not going to leave me hanging. The universe is not going to say, okay, well, you've already chosen, and so now everything is downhill from there. That's not what the universe does. The universe, I think, delights in giving us goodness. The universe delights in giving us the space to explore new things, and so that's what I'm really leaning into. I've been having this anxiety maybe, or this fear that maybe I'll never be there, that I'll never truly be satisfied with where I end up. But I've been asking myself, okay, where is there? What is there? If I could plan out my entire life beginning to end and say, this is exactly what I want, what is this there? And transparently, I don't know that I have that. I don't know that I exactly know what I want. Going back to what I was saying, like the 20s are hard. I think that right now it feels like we're making these really big life-changing decisions. Should I move? Should I get married? Should I start trying for kids? Should I go back and get my second degree? Like, we're making these really, really big decisions, and it feels like, okay, well, I wish things were just a little bit easier. I wish I still had a little bit more guidance, and now it feels like it's all on me. And so I'm thinking, like, if I don't know where there is, and I feel like I'll also never get there, then why am I so stressed out about it? Shouldn't that be telling me that because I don't know exactly what I want, that means I have so much room to figure it out? I think that sometimes we look at not knowing exactly what we want, not knowing our end game as this bad thing or this scary thing, but I'm reframing my mindset to look at it as this really exciting thing and this really bountiful thing, right? Because I don't know, I can try things to figure it out. And it's not about knowing everything or landing there, getting to this pinnacle of success, this pinnacle of joy. It's about what we do to try to get there. And as long as I honor myself and listen to myself and show up for myself, I don't think I'm going to end up in a bad place. I think that not exactly knowing everything that I want for my life and planning that out at 25 is not a bad thing. I think that that removes a lot of opportunity for disappointment and instead replaces it with a lot of opportunity for joy and for trying and for showing up and for changing my mind and for doing new things and going back and trying again. I mean, that is what not knowing is giving me right now. Not knowing is giving me the opportunity to figure it out. And I'm really thankful for that. But I think it's like we're all running this rat race towards perfection. And it's kind of scary because it seems like we get online and everyone either has it figured out or looks like they have it figured out, more so looks like they have it figured out. Because at the end of the day, we see 5%, 10% of these people's lives. We're not seeing as much as we think that we're seeing, but that 5 to 10% looks like they have it figured out. We're watching their 5 a.m. morning routine. They have everything figured out. They have their clothes laid out. They're going to the perfect gym. They're getting the perfect workout. You know, we talk about this all the time. Like, it looks like it is all so perfect. And we're trying to figure out, okay, well, what do I need to do to get there? And there are some things that we can learn from, you know, watching creators online. There are some things that we can implement in our lives to make it better or healthier or more enjoyable for us, right? But there's some things that we can look at and be like, okay, I see that they're doing that. And I see that that looks like it's really working for them, but it's not for me. And I think that that's what I've really had to learn lately, that just because I see it doesn't mean it has to be for me. Just because somebody is saying that I should do it doesn't mean I have to. Somebody online saying that I should do something is not a demand. I am not obligated to listen. I think that we see things all the time and there's a million people online telling us who we should be, what we should wear, where we should go, what we should eat. And it's like, okay, thank you for your input, but no, I actually don't want to do that. And I'm allowed to not want to do that. And when I see something that I don't want to do or something that I don't want to listen to or advice that I don't want to listen to or learn from, I can truly just scroll. Like, that is the freedom that I have to not subject myself to everyone else's opinions on what my life should look like. But I think that because we're so used to seeing people online portray this really beautiful picture of their lives, we are all running towards like this perfect outcome, this perfect end game. And it is so exhausting. A couple of weeks ago, I did this campaign with Hinge for the Global Day of Unplugging. And it was really beautiful for me because I think at the time that I did it, I was so obsessed with my phone in a way that was like very unhealthy. And it was only one day. It was, like I said, the Global Day of Unplugging. So from sundown all throughout the next day and then sundown to the next day, I was just like not supposed to be on social media. And I really tried to take that to heart. I didn't post anything. I didn't really like anything. I didn't scroll. I was just using my phone to film and I tried my best. I think that there are some points, of course, where it's like natural. You pick up your phone, you open TikTok, you scroll a little bit. And for me, it's like I pick up my phone, I open TikTok, I check my notifications, I check my following, I check my analytics, I go to Instagram, I do the same thing. And I was so exhausted by it because naturally you get online and you look at all of your stuff and then you scroll and you see other people's content and you're like, oh, well, they're getting this many views and they have this many followers and their engagement rate is this, or they're getting this many likes and this many comments and this many saves. And so I should be getting that or else I'm not good enough. And you guys, it is so fucking exhausting when you don't take a step back and say, okay, what happens on my phone is actually not real life. Real life happens when I look up from my phone. Real life happens when I'm having conversations with my friends, when I am sitting next to Alex and we're watching a show and we're laughing together. Real life is when I'm cooking a meal that I really enjoy and sitting down to eat it and not worried about the calories in it. I'm just like enjoying it because I deserve to enjoy it. That is real life, right? And this aim and this drive to be perfect, we have to learn to remove ourselves from it because what is it? Actually, you know, I don't know what perfection would actually even look like, right? Because the finish line keeps moving. Every time we get to where we think, okay, this is it, this is a pinnacle, this is the best, it feels like the world, the universe, society really keeps changing the finish line on us. And it is like, okay, how do we keep up? How do we get there? And that's why I say it is literally a rat race. We are never going to get there. And so what that has helped me do is like stop myself from trying so hard to be perfect. What I want to try so hard to do is find joy, to indulge in my real life, to indulge in the world around me, to indulge in the things that really matter to me, and not so much about looking perfect or being perfect for other people's eyes, for other people's perception. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how many likes and views I get if I turn my phone off and I sit in the corner and I'm just like sobbing all night. Like, or if I feel completely isolated from the people in my life and I feel so disconnected from them. Like, it's kind of the trade-off of you spend all of your time online on social media and you feel so connected to people on a screen, and then you sit down with people in your real life and you feel like you have nothing to talk about. You feel like you have no way to connect with them. And that is deeply, deeply dangerous. Looking perfect online, having these perfect analytics and these perfect videos and these perfect replies comes at a cost, because you have to be so tuned in with what everyone else is expecting from you and so tuned out from what you really truly want. And I think going back to being online and being an influencer and all this stuff is like, I've had to really, I talk about this in therapy so much. I think we can all apply to it, or I think it applies to all of us, whether or not you're an influencer, just someone who is online, or someone who even like post anything online, not in an influencer way, but just in a way of like posting it all, is that like the dopamine hit you get when something performs well, the dopamine hit. You guys know what I'm talking about. When you post a story and that guy you're talking to likes it, you know what I mean? Or when you post an Instagram post and you get more likes than normal because you're like, oh, I felt really good in that, or I felt really great in that and really pretty in that. And it feels like other people are acknowledging that. And now I feel affirmed in my belief that this was a great photo, or whatever it may be, like the dopamine hit. And it keeps you coming back. And I think in the world of influencing, it's like you post a video and you get 1 million views and you're like, oh my God, I did it. Like the joy, the excitement of seeing the likes come in, the saves come in, the comments come in. You're like, yes, yes, yes. And then you post another video and it gets 15,000 views and you're like, oh, I didn't do good enough. And now I have to keep chasing that dopamine hit, and how exhausting that is, right? Because the system is not made so that everyone gets 1 million views on every video. That's not how the algorithm works. Like, that's never going to happen. But somehow our brains convince us that that's true. I think especially with influencers, our brains convince us that like, okay, I have this many followers, so I should get this many views every single time. And that is just not how it really works in my experience. I think it's interesting as influencers because our goal is always to increase our following, to build our following, to get to this next step, to do this next thing. And going back to the original topic of the podcast is like, maybe this right here is the good stuff. Maybe I should look around and enjoy what I have going on right here, because you don't know the stress, the anxieties, the problems that are going to come with having 600,000 followers, with having 1 million followers, whatever it may be, like whatever it is down the line. And I think this goes for the people who work in corporate. It's like, okay, maybe right now is the good stuff. I like what I'm doing. I like my tasks. I like my level of responsibility. And yes, I really want a promotion because I really want more money, or I really want more of whatever comes to the next thing. But you don't necessarily know all that's going to come with the next thing. I think that when we are yearning for this next step, when we are yearning for our next big thing, that we only look at the positives of it. We don't really look at it in the full picture of it all. We look at like what we're gaining and not necessarily what we're losing, which I think is a good thing. I think that looking forward to things and looking at the positives of it is really important, but I think it's also really important to acknowledge that it's not going to be all positives. And maybe if we are looking at the life that we have right now, the job we have, the friends we have, the apartment we're living in, the house we're living in, and not so focused on what is to come next, we can start to really enjoy what we have. Because Do you remember when you wanted what you have right now so badly? Because I do. I remember when every single night I was manifesting and I was journaling and I was saying, I want this many followers on TikTok and I want to be able to buy the things that I want, not really have to worry about it. And I want a lot of emotional peace and I want a healthy relationship and I want friends that love me and I love them. And I look up and I'm like, oh my God, I have it. And while I have it right now, instead of fully enjoying it and leaning into all of the goodness that comes with it, I'm like, well, I want that thing. I want what she has. And we talked about jealousy on the episode last week and like how jealousy is this naturally occurring emotion, and being jealous doesn't necessarily make you the villain, but staying jealous and letting that jealousy fester and build is the problem. That's when you run into problems with your relationships or your friendships or your own mental health and all of that stuff. We talked about it last week, but I think that like we look around, we're like, okay, I want that. I want what she has. I want what he has. I want the next step. I want this promotion. I want this next move. And we get there and then we're like, oh, I kind of yearn for simpler times. Just like I was talking at the beginning of this episode that I'm 25 now and I didn't realize how peaceful and how good things were at 22. I think at 22, I was yearning for and working towards the life I have now. And I look back and I'm like, maybe if I just enjoyed that a little bit more. Maybe if I enjoyed the fact that I could go out with my friends and I didn't necessarily have to check my phone so often because I wasn't anxious about how my video was performing, or I could have weekends without having to film things because I actually had a weekend, or I didn't have to think about how I was phrasing everything and how I was being perceived so widely because I was just around people who knew me. I wasn't like social media wasn't my career, right? Like when I was in that phase of life and I was yearning for this one, it's so funny because I get to this one and then I look back at how simple and how peaceful things were back then. And that's what we all end up doing, right? We kind of bounce back and forth like, I want that. I want the next thing. We get to the next thing. We're like, oh, I actually want the thing that was past. Like, and it's so exhausting because we're never actually sitting and looking for contentment in the life that we have now. It's either I want the next thing or I want the previous thing, but we are completely forgetting the fact that we are going to wish we had this thing back at some point. So why not indulge in it and enjoy it and take it for what it is while we actually have it, rather than rushing out of it and then yearning for it later. On the other side of that though, I find that I have a really hard time with enjoying where I am because I'm anticipating the end of it. If that makes sense, I think that quite a few of you are probably going to understand what I mean and feel the same way. It's like, okay, I'm in this phase of life right now and I'm really loving it and I'm really enjoying it, but I'm so anxious that the end is coming. I think that back to this whole TikTok thing, it's like I love the place that I'm in on TikTok. I love the following that I built. I love the community that I have. The other day I made a TikTok and I said, I'm so anxious that I'm considering calling my estranged mother and asking for advice. And my comments were flooded with people being like, call me instead, DM me instead, let's talk instead. Like, you don't need to do that. I'm here for you. And I appreciated it so much because that speaks to the community that I built. And it's a beautiful community indeed. But I think that instead of really resting in it and enjoying it, I'm so anxious that the end of it is coming. And that's been really hard for me. I think that I've done that in every phase of my life, not just as it comes to my job, but I think that I do that when I'm like with my friends. I'm like, oh, this is so much fun and I love them so much, but what if we stop being friends one day? Or Alex and I are planning a move for next year. And I'm like, okay, I love my friends and I love my apartment and I love Denver and I'm having so much fun here, but I'm anticipating the end of it. And instead of soaking it up and enjoying every single day, every single moment that I'm with my friends, every single walk around Wash Park, I'm like, well, this is nice, but I'm not going to have it anymore next year. And I think that does me substantially more harm than good. And I'm really trying to reframe my brain and remind myself that yes, it may be ending, but just because it's ending doesn't mean you can't soak up all of the goodness that it has to offer right now. Because if I don't, I know that I'm going to go to the next thing. I'm going to move to the next place and I'm going to say, I wish I paid more attention. I wish I looked up more. I wish I sat in awe and wonder of the things around me and just soaked it in for myself. And I've been working on thinking about that and talking about that in therapy and journaling about it. I started journaling again. Like I said in the thing that I wrote, it's like I started podcasting and stopped journaling because I felt like in some way it was the same thing, and it's not. I think that the things that I share with you guys, as honest and as open as they are, they're things that I only want to talk about with myself and only really need to be discussed with myself. And so I started journaling again, and I've been talking about these experiences that I'm having where I'm like sitting in these conversations, having so much fun with my friends, and for a minute I feel like I'm outside of myself, and I'm like, oh, but the end is coming. Like the end of this is near. And I have to remind myself, okay, maybe the end is coming. Maybe things are changing, but you're here right now. So instead of being somewhere else, how about you just be here? And I think it's been helping me a lot, journaling about it and getting to the root of that. And the root of that is just this fear that like things don't stay the same. And I think that we know that, right? In this like big, overarching way. Like we know, okay, things don't stay the same, things always change. But what's different about this change that's coming in my life is that I know it's happening. I think that in some situations in our lives, we know that change is inevitable, but we don't really have a countdown. We don't really know when. I think about how post-college, I had this friend, we were best friends in college, and we became different people, and I still have so much respect for her and so much love for her, and I really think that we lived such good times together. That said, we were just becoming very different people. I was kind of leaning away from religion. She was really diving into religion. And so there's a lot of stuff that comes with that. But every couple of times we would hang out, we would get into these very, very steamy conversations. Steamy is not the right word. They weren't like steamy, but these very heavy conversations about religion and about our beliefs and about our opinions and things like that. And you could just tell the end of this friendship is coming. And then there was just a decision made, like a conversation where it's like, okay, we're going to stop. And you could just tell like the end of this friendship is coming. And I think that with that, it was like, okay, I know there's like, it's a slow burn though. There's not really a conversation that's going to be had. I know that one day I'm not going to pick up the phone and text you to hang out, or you're not going to call me when something goes wrong, or I'm not going to call you when something exciting happens in my life. Our friendship just kind of phases out. And I think that that is easier to wrap our heads around because it's a slow burn and we kind of see it coming, but there's no big final moment. And I think that when things are happening, you know, there's this big final moment to it, it feels like, oh my God, I feel suffocated by the end. Like I feel so anxious about the end, and I know what's coming, and I feel like I want to soak it all up, and I feel like I need to prepare for the next thing, and I don't really know what to do. And that's how I've been feeling. I think that when we think about the end of things, a lot of the anxiety and a lot of the fear comes from thinking that, okay, we're not going to find anything like it anywhere else. We're not going to find joy like it or love like it anywhere else. And that's not true. I think that getting out of a scarcity mindset, I know that a lot of people talk about scarcity mindset in the name of money, but I think that we should really be talking about scarcity mindset in the way of love, in the way of joy, in the way of connection, because I think a lot of us live with this really big scarcity mindset towards those things. We think, okay, I have it, and so I need to hold on to it for dear, dear life because I will never find it again. And I think that leads us to stay in relationships that are okay but not great, or in friendships that are fine but not great, or stick around with family who treats us okay, but I don't really feel loved or connected when I leave those situations. I think that we stay in situations for far too long because we don't know that there's going to be greater somewhere else. And in every situation where I've left something and I thought, okay, this is the best it's going to be, I have always found better. And I'm so thankful for that. One thing that I've been paying attention to, and I wrote about it, I think that this episode has really just been like me reading you guys what I wrote and then talking about the different things I said in it. But one thing that I have noticed is that I have this almost craving to compare myself. I think that I've been doing it for so long that it is really hard to train myself to not do that. I think that the craving comes from years of being online, and now that being online is my job, it is just magnified tenfold. But I think that it's like you see these things that other people are doing. You see what they're wearing. You see where they're living. You see what their relationship is like. And you think, oh, okay, well, that has to mean that I'm not doing enough. And that has to mean something about me. And you see it in someone else. And you see it in someone else and you think, okay, their expression has to say something about me. And that is actually not true. And learning that that's not true has been such a mindset shift for me. I think like I would scroll online and say, okay, they're doing this, so that means I'm not doing that good enough. Or they got this, so that means I'm not working hard enough to get it. And it is so exhausting to live our lives that way, to constantly have this like deep desire, this craving to compare ourselves. And I think that the craving comes to compare ourselves from this like lack of deep knowing or understanding of our own personhood. I think that when we compare ourselves, we're trying to learn something about ourselves through that. It's like, okay, well, if they're doing this and I like that they're doing this, that means that maybe I want to do it too. Or if they're doing something that I don't like, that means something about me too. That means that there's a reason I don't like it and I need to get down to the reason that I don't like it. Or there's a reason I don't like it. Maybe that's because it actually does exist in me and I can acknowledge that I don't like it in them, but refuse to acknowledge that I don't like it in myself, whatever it may be. I think that this craving to compare ourselves is really just a craving to know ourselves. And that has been really hard for me because I have been spending so much time online. And I think with that, so much time comparing myself. And I think that it has led to this lack of a deep connection with myself and this deep knowing of myself. I think that if everything about me and everything that I know about myself is because I saw it in someone else and I liked it, or saw it in someone else and I didn't like it, or saw it in someone else and I compared myself to it, that really isn't the same thing as knowing myself or being connected to myself. So I've been on this journey to get down to what I like because I like it, get down to what I know because I know it, rather than it being about everyone else, just getting back to it being entirely about me. And I've been really working on and thinking about what it means to just be content with myself, to not necessarily feel like I need to change something about my personality, change something about my behaviors all of the time. Maybe I just like who I am right now and I don't need to change it. Maybe I like that I wake up at 7 and I don't need to wake up at 5 to feel better. Or maybe I like that I go out on the weekends and I don't need to stay in every weekend to feel healthier. Maybe I like the things that I eat and I like the things that I do and I like the way that I move and I don't need to change it. I think that society tells us that we need to be better every single day. And my God, is that exhausting, trying to be better every single day, because being better every day means being different every day. And maybe I just want to be the same for a little bit because I've worked really hard to be this person and I want to enjoy being this person without feeling like I need to shift something or change something all of the time to feel better about myself. I don't necessarily need to feel better about myself because I feel the best about myself that I've ever felt right now with who I am right now. I think that there's times in our life where we're growing and we're developing and we're changing. And there's times in our life where we really need to rest in contentment, rest in who we are at this moment, because inevitably, things are going to happen in our lives that make us change and take hold in us and move us around and shape us. But that's not every day. Like sometimes we change because we have to, and sometimes we change because we want to. And neither of those things are necessarily bad, but sometimes we stay the same because we like who we are and we've worked really, really hard to be who we are, and we're okay with that right this moment. So all that to say, maybe this is the party. Maybe this is the joy. Maybe this is the good stuff. And just because we have it now doesn't mean we're not going to have more of it later. There is so much to come, good, bad, and different to come in our lives. And maybe right now is what we've been working on and manifesting, and we deserve to just sit and enjoy it. We really do deserve that. And I don't know if you know that. I don't know that a lot of us know that we're allowed to enjoy the fruits of our labor, right? Because we have worked really, really hard on ourselves. And I know that you guys work really, really hard on yourselves because we talk about it all the time. I think that a lot of people follow me because that's what we talk about all of the time. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the community and the love that we share here for ourselves and for each other. I think that one of my favorite things is when somebody is in my comments talking about a hardship that they're going through or something that they just need to vent about, and then other people start to reply words of encouragement, words of love. That, I think, shows that what I'm doing is the right thing, because not only am I pouring love and encouragement into each of you, you guys are pouring it into each other, and that's special. I think that's what really matters to me, is you guys knowing me and feeling connected to the things that I'm saying because you feel connected to me in some way. Not to be super parasocial about all of it, you know what I mean? But I think that it is really, really hard to believe someone and believe that someone cares for you if you don't know them at all. And so I just wanted to share what's been on my heart and what's been on my mind. But I love you guys so much. and I will see you guys next week.